F. Gary Gray asks, how far are desperate people willing to go? We talk about this and more on today's episode. Yes, welcome back to Around the Weird, a booktube channel where I talk about weird and unusual literature, but I also talk about books. I also talk about movies with my friend Lucas from Strike the Sun, MD, Dr.
Hello.
Strike the Sun. How are you doing today, Lucas?
I'm wonderful. I watched the movie a couple hours ago to make sure it would be totally fresh in my mind. And you, good sir, have excellent taste in cinema.
Yeah, well, thank you for one. It's always a good compliment to hear.
Thank F. Gary Gray.
Yeah, I had watched Law Abiding Citizen, but I've
Mhm.
also watched other F. Gary Gray things, and it's kind of a mixed bag of what you can expect from him. And another thing is that I wasn't sure how this was going to go because this movie isn't really talked about too much these days. And usually when that happens, I found that when you return to those movies, they're actually kind of bad. Like there's a reason people don't talk about it. But here, that's not really the case. And so I was pleasantly surprised to find that this is actually a really great movie.
Agreed. I was confused because I knew he made Friday, right?
Yes, yes, he did.
Yeah, I knew of Friday, and I'd heard of the other film you talked about a little bit from you. Uh, but I didn't realize he had made so many films when I looked him up. But I'd never heard of this one, and I was thinking, oh no, he's chosen one of the like films that is meant to be forgotten. And it is absolute fire. Like this is a great piece of cinema all around.
Hmm.
Great, amazing work, I think.
Yeah, and so just to clarify, the movie we're talking about today is Set It Off, which was written in or which was published direct or like released in 1996, directed by F. Gary Gray, written by Kate Lanier and Takashi Buford. Takashi Buford doesn't have a Wikipedia page, which is funny, but both of them were like contributed to other I want to say like black movies in the 90s and 2000s. So this is just like another stop on their like career. It's also starring Jada Pinkett before she started having affairs with people who weren't Will Smith. Vivica A. Fox, Queen Latifah, John C. McGinley, who's from Scrubs.
That was a shock to find him there.
Yeah, he was also in Point Break as a hard ass FBI agent. So
Yeah.
this is like par
Kind
for
of
the
suits
course.
his acting. I think he's pretty good at being like a hard ass kind of character.
Hmm. Hmm. And so just a few things about F. Gary Gray. His career sort of started with music videos. He directed Ice Cube's "Good Day" music video. Where he's like, "Today was a good day," and uh, you, it's a very good music video. And then he directed a couple other movies. This one comes before Friday. I think Friday was a year or two down the line. And then he would later direct like A Man Apart, which had Vin Diesel, not a very good movie in the early 2000s. And then I believe he'd also direct um, Law Abiding Citizen, great movie in my opinion. Also similar themes, like it's definitely more focused on white people here, or white people there than people of color, but it's a very interesting movie, and I believe he'd also direct other movies down the line. I don't remember them all, but yeah, that's the context in which we find ourselves. What do you think about F. Gary Gray, Lucas?
Well, I've only heard of Law Abiding Citizen from you. Good things. I really enjoy Friday, not so much the sequels. I don't think he worked on those, but I enjoy Friday. And again, like I said, really enjoy this film. And I do enjoy It Was a Good Day, the music video, as well as the song. Um, yeah, I was very happy too. I didn't know beforehand that he had also made Set It Off, yeah, I didn't know he was the director of all these things till you had brought it up last month, and I looked into it. Um, I think one thing. Oh, also don't forget Kimberly Elise is in the movie. She's the mother, the black woman who's got the son.
Mm-hmm.
Um,
To Sean.
yeah, yeah, yeah. Anyway, um, I really enjoy. I think maybe one of the reasons that it is not talked about as much as, say, maybe even Friday. Not that I've heard people talk about Friday in a while, but maybe also because we are not black. It might be more like all of his work might be more popular with the black community because this is a very like black issues kind of film with great performances and cuts at the heart of a lot of things and like really shows some real issues. Um, so like Friday is a comedy. This is a drama. Um, an amazing drama with romance and a heist and all sorts of other like interesting things going on.
Mm-hmm.
There's like a sisterhood element to this and kind of a comedy as well. Like this movie has every genre in a way. um, but I would think maybe part of the reason that it's not spoken about, so to speak, is because we're not in the communities that do speak about F. Gary Gray's work as often. Uh, Also, possibly because it's like the main characters are women. Uh, so that could be an element to it as well. Whereas Friday, yeah, has Chris Tucker and Ice Cube and a whole bunch of other men. And I don't know for sure what the deal is, but I would say I was very happy to see this film. I really like sort of seeing black art that gets at like real issues that black people deal with. Um, to see that like perspective, um, I think like although it does sort of focus on the difficulties of the black experience. I think there is some good parts, like the element of uh, like a tight knit group, close connection with like people from your community and that kind of stuff. These kinds of positive traits, I guess. That kind of stuff is cool to see. I don't have quite the same connection with people where I'm from as we do see with the four main characters. Um, so, seeing like F. Gary Gray's films or Barry Jenkins or unfortunately, I can't think of another black director. That is a problem, perhaps. But
Ava
yeah, anyway.
DuVernay.
Yeah, 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 yeah. They're not rolling off the tongue like white directors. Maybe that says something as well. Um, but I enjoy seeing these kind of films to see a new perspective, seeing the good and the bad and that kind of stuff. So I love this film.
The movie focuses on four black women. Cleo, should be noted, she's a lesbian, played by Queen Latifah. Stony, who's kind of the main character, played by Jada Pinkett. Frankie, who's played by Vivica A. Fox. And Tashawn, who is played by that woman you mentioned before. The interesting thing is like she didn't really go on to do much after this movie, so she's not in my mind as like as
Yeah.
a
Kimberly Elise. I just wanted to make sure that we mentioned her because you said the other three.
yeah.
Felt wrong to leave her out.
Thank you for that. But yeah, the movie really starts by focusing on Frankie. She is working at a bank when somebody that she knows from her neighborhood, named Darnell, shows up. He robs the bank and or he kills a cop. And right off the bat, like the movie throws like a question your way or makes you consider something like why would a person do this? Like, why would they go and rob a bank? Why would they, shoot a cop? Why would a person be so desperate as to do such a thing? And the movie
Yeah.
answers that later on.
Yeah, actually, this scene threw me for a loop because I was expecting it to be like, because everyone else in the bank was white, Darnell was black, and he wasn't dressed nearly as well as the others. I mean, Vivica A. Fox's character, Frankie, was like sort of joking about like, go on your holiday before I change my mind or whatever she said. And then like the way that uh, the man was framed that ended up robbing the bank, I thought it was like in a way sort of trying to play on stereotypes because he sort of comes to her slow and it feels menacing. What ends up happening is menacing, but I thought it was going to be like actually he's legitimately there to do like real business or cash a check or withdraw. But then when he pulled out his gun, I was like, oh, this is not what I was expecting. I thought but even though it's maybe not challenging stereotypes the way I was expecting, it does raise those questions. Um, and why would somebody do this? What pushes them? What drives them to do something so reckless, desperate? And it only gets worse from there because after the shootout, the main perpetrator, one of the people that was part of the heist, got away. But Frankie is questioned by the police, including uh, the Scrubs doctor, John C. McKinley,
Hmm.
um, who is a pretty much a hard ass and questioning what is her relationship, did that influence her for not following the procedure, and he like really digs deep on her and keeps asking the question till she answers, but she says like, I had a gun pulled on me, he
Yeah.
killed a woman, uh, and a cop. I think it was the other guy that killed a cop, but I can't remember. But regardless, he had a gun on me. Like, yes, I know the procedure, but like, I think anybody can understand. Like, when you're in that situation, it's life or death. Like, all thoughts go out the window. You're not going to be thinking, yes, I know exactly what to do now. You're not going to be calm and composed the way that you've been trained in a
Mhm.
very safe environment. You're just like, ah, ah um, you know, you're in panic.
What's
Um,
the procedure, Lucas? Which
Procedure.
I like this scene for two reasons. One, there's a callback to it later that is just like absolutely devastating. And the second reason is I think it sets up the detective or the cop in a very interesting way because the
Yeah,
movie maybe kind of wants to present him as a noble, or like maybe it gives into that, like it plays on the stereotypes of the noble cop of like
yeah,
he's doing great things, but every single thing that this cop does throughout the movie is done in a way that causes suffering to everyone,
yeah.
to all the black characters.
I completely agree. I was thinking the same thing. Like this guy is literally like my view of him was not just the noble cop. He's literally like the one good cop. Like, when people defend police,
Hmm.
they'll say like not all of them are bad. You know, in my opinion, like he was probably like genuinely the one good cop in the whole precinct, LAPD, but that doesn't really amount to much when everyone else is rotten.
Hmm.
Because all his actions, even though he's trying to do the right thing and trying to follow the right procedure, and he genuinely feels regret when mistakes are made, they're still made, and his actions have meaning and consequence, and he has power, and he's not trying, although he's not abusing it's being used somewhat recklessly and ruining lives. uh Another interesting stereotype that not maybe not stereotype but like um not character, yeah, stereotype maybe. His partner is a black woman, and Frankie makes the comment like she's mad at John C. McGinley's character, but then she just like says, "You didn't even ask me if I'm thirsty, sister." Uh,
Yes, yes.
to her, um, and she just looks at her because she's drinking a glass of water that she got. She came into the frame with the glass of water, and then yeah, what's the procedure? What's the procedure? Okay, go to. Like you didn't even ask me. She's upset because she's getting fired because they don't trust her anymore, even though she just got a promotion. She's been there for 2 years. This black woman is not going to defend her in any way. And we find out later, she doesn't do too much, but we can tell from just some small subtleties in her actions that she's sort of much more cruel as a police officer than her partner, who is the noble one good cop.
Let me
Which we
let me
can
just
get.
interrupt
Yes.
by saying again the F. Gary Gray connection to Ice Cube, who was in NWA, and
Yeah.
the song "Fuck the Police,"
Mhm.
where one of the lyrics in there is "Don't let it be a black or a white one, because they'll like beat you harder." Like black police showing out for the white cop. I have no like reason to say these lyrics or to pretend I know about black culture in that way. But I just that's what I was thinking as I was watching this. I was like, oh, like this woman is kind of like being extra harsh to black women that she should be supporting.
Yeah, I mean, again, I also don't have experience, but I've seen it a lot in like black films where they have a police character and the character is black and he's much harder on like uh I forget what that movie is called, but there's a movie with Bernie Mac and he plays a police officer and he just hates everything black. Um it's a comedy, of course, because it has Bernie Mac. It has the Wayans brothers as well. Um, something about sipping on I can't remember the name of it,
Oh,
but
don't be a menace to
yeah,
society.
yeah, yeah. Don't be a menace to society. Bernie Mac is a cop, and he just like hates everything black. And this is a big running joke throughout the movie.
Yeah, I don't really remember what John C. McKinley's character's name is, so I'm just gonna call him Detective Scrubs from here on out. Uh,
Yeah,
and I need to point out like he like is very adamant that Frankie has something to do with this initial robbery. Like no proof at
yeah.
all. Just assumes like, oh, two black individuals, they must be connected in some way. And it sort of guides his detective
Well,
throughout the rest of the movie. But it
yeah,
should be noted, like he just assumes that Frankie has a part to play. Later, he's found out to be accurate, but that's a completely separate thing. Like she has nothing to
yeah.
do with Lorenz, I
Well,
think is his name.
that's true. You're jumping the gun a little bit. He has tangential evidence that leads him to believe these things, like these women run together and that they're involved, um, which his superior runs him down for, which we can get to. But okay, Frankie is fired, and then we see a house party
Hmm.
where everyone is dressed up in 70s clothing. And we get to see the rest of the gang, the rest of the crew, and their relationship. It turns out, um, oh God, what's her name? Jada's character has a younger brother who's going to college, and so it seems, as far as we know. Um, and they kind of embarrass him as he's dancing, um, which I thought was funny. I thought the this really sold the tone of their relationship with each other. That it was pretty heartwarming sort of sisterhood among Cleo and Frankie. Well, Frankie comes a little bit later, but Stony and TT. Yeah, I really liked this dance.
Yeah, no, it was a good introduction to the characters. But like from here, for a couple scenes, we see that every single one of them are struggling in some way. Cleo is not respected by her employer and isn't given like fair wages. Stony is starting a new job. She has to have sex with some gross dude in order to.
Yeah, well, let's not underplay that because this scene is also mirrored later to great effect. She wants to get in advance because her brother, like shortly after the party, talks about how he's not going to go to UCLA anymore because he
Mhm.
didn't get a scholarship. That also turns out to be a lie, as we find out, because uh, their parents died in a car crash years ago. So that's why she's the main caretaker of her younger brother, why Stoney's taking care of her younger brother. So she's desperate to do anything, and this man coerces her with money to have sex with her. And yeah, the scene is pretty disgusting, and the way it's shot. The reason I want to bring it up is because it's very well shot, but it's very slow moving through a mirror, like looking at a mirror, I guess,
Mhm.
until we finally see like, yeah, them actually in bed. He's having the time of his life, sweating, and she's just looking disgusted, to the side. It's really sad. But I want to make a big point of that because later, when this scene is mirrored with Keith Edwards, I think was his name, the
Yeah,
banker, it is very good. But yeah, Cleo is having troubles with her employer. Um, Stoney has troubles with her little brother, who is not even going to UCLA. He didn't get in, and he just wants to get a job to help around the house. So he has to give up the dreams that he might have had. But it seems like they were mostly dreams that were instilled in him by his sister to like make something of him and try to help him have the best life that she can't have. And then TT has a child that she can't afford uh, a babysitter for because she has to pay taxes. And Luther, the owner of the company, is doesn't want to have trouble with the IRS, but also isn't respectful to any of them and is cutting TT's wages as well for making. Oh no, I think he cuts Cleo's wage. No, he cuts TT's wages for
Mm-hmm.
making a mistake, and she's already suffering from taxes. Sorry, I don't mean to laugh, but my one of my students is writing a story about like someone has to change society, and one of the problem that they've decided to change is taxes. And in the story, a guy loses his house because he can't afford like property taxes, so he decides to create a paramilitary force and is going to go destroy the IRS.
It's Killdozer. They discovered Killdozer.
Yes, I know. Okay, sorry. They're all anyway. All of our main characters are having problems, and Frankie has just lost her job.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So,
And but so yeah, like Stony, like she confronts her brother about this and smacks him because presumably she's mad that she like got that money even though she like had to have sex with that dude and like it was all for nothing.
mm,
But then Stevie goes and meets up with a friend, Lorenz, who Stevie doesn't know that that man robbed a bank. And the police figure out like there's an AP on the back of Lorenz's head in the bank security footage. They don't understand what the AP means. It's Acorn Projects, reference to where he lives, which is interesting because again, like the police, they don't understand the culture of the people that they're policing. Uh, just a minor detail there.
yep.
But Stevie goes to meet up with him, and Lorenz tricks him into getting AP tattoo or shaved into the back of his head, which is a very evil thing to do to somebody. But then Stevie leaves the apartment or the motel that he's at, and the police show up at that point, and like Stevie's like, what? I don't know what's going on here. He's forced on the ground, and he's holding a wine bottle that
Some champagne.
yeah, some champagne that Lorenz gave him. And he's like, I have a thing of champagne, and the police mistake it for a gun. And he's surrounded by like half a dozen cops, and they all shoot him. Like they all gun him down. And like it's I know like police shootings have been going on for a long time, but this felt especially relevant to today. I guess because it's more in the news. Stevie gets gunned down, shot, and dies.
Yeah.
Detective Scrubs is there and is like he sees
Oh
the
God.
he
It's
sees the
just
champagne
a
bottle.
champagne bottle.
He's filled with extreme anguish, even though I'm pretty sure this is not the first like unarmed shooting that he's been a part of. If we were to extrapolate on his character.
Damn it, a second one today. Which I shouldn't laugh at that. Sorry.
Yeah, no, well, no, like you should call the police for what they are. Like,
Yeah.
Stevie
Anyway.
shows up, or sorry, not Steve. Stoney shows up, sees that her brother has been gunned down, and is filled with extreme anguish. Um, she wanted her brother to go off and do great things. Unfortunately, he's dead now, and her parents are dead as well, which happens before the movie starts. And I think at that point, Detective Scrubs sees that those four women are connected in some way. And I
Yeah, he
think,
sees them together. He offers condolences, and if she wants to talk about anything, gives her his card, like for yeah, because they're gonna do an investigation about this. And then Lorenz also gets shot up um, a little bit before this, and you see all the bodies of all the people who are killed, all the black people who are
Mhm.
shot down. Um, Bullet after bullet after bullet after bullet after bullet after bullet after bullet in their bodies. Yeah. And Stony, just vitriolic hatred, pure venom, rightfully so. Doesn't want anything to do with him. Doesn't even want to live in her house anymore. She can't even go to the bathroom because it will just remind her of her brother. Uh, and yeah, it is dark,
Mhm.
really dark.
And I think like every other character has sort of like a prompt to get them to want to do the bank heist. Stoney's, I think, is more, I hate the system. I hate everything about this world that I'm living in. Let me just, I want to leave. I want to get out of this place and hopefully find something way better.
Yeah, there were a few, not very many, but there were a few like pretty openly uh, anti-capitalist kind of comments, like direct dialogue, not just like showing, look at these problems that are stemming from, the police and the issues that Black people have with just trying to make it out of the projects, which is where they live. Um, uh, or make it out and make something of themselves, and all the other issues and facing discrimination at the workplace and all that stuff. But they're also like, I remember after the money, they're watching TV and they see that the $12,000 that was stolen or whatever on the news report is saying $90,000, and TT's like, what's going on here? I thought Frankie said it was 12,000. And then Frankie and Stony both pop up and say, insurance scam. Um, and I think one of the motivating factors, I don't know if it was Stony or Frankie that said it to motivate Stony, but one of the motivating factors was like, don't worry about that money getting stolen because insurance will cover it anyway. We're just taking back from the people who are taking from us.
Specifically, I wrote it down. We're just taking away from a system that's fucking us all anyway.
Yeah, that's right.
Amazing fucking line right there.
Yeah.
Holy shit. That pretty much outlines the like politics, the underlying like structure of this movie. And I was blown away that they said that.
Yeah, that was like a radicalizing moment of the movie for sure.
Hmm.
I also greatly appreciated that line. Yeah, get them, girls.
And when they're planning the bank heist as well, they're sitting on top of the roof of their home,
Mhm.
smoking weed, and they're looking across at a factory where they're talking about how that factory was like giving people
Yeah,
$15 an hour, like haha kind of wages now, but like that was a lot of money in the 90s.
yeah,
And like they're talking about how that factory is not open anymore. But what's interesting about that scene, I don't know if you saw, but like as they're talking about it, that there's a wall between them and the factory. Like not only are they like metaphorically or like figuratively blocked off from it, but they're physically blocked off from that
yeah.
factory. That's not
I
an
yeah.
option for them.
I think it wasn't closed. It was pretty much closing though, because they laid off a lot of people. I don't think they laid off everyone because I think I did see some movement in the back, but still, you're right. Like they are sort of their job prospects do not include the nice factory that pays well, and that is removing them socioeconomically, but also literally, physically, they are being the gate is there to keep them out.
I should also another thing I wanted to say is Tishan.
Mhm.
The reason she's joining is because she like CPS has taken away her child, which
Yep.
there's like an entire thing that we could talk about there. There's a book I read by Dorothy Roberts called Torn Apart, which talks about like the systemic inequalities in the social or in the this well yeah this social uh the social worker system, where like a lot of Black women have their children taken away and they don't have the
Yeah.
money to get those children back, and often those Black children are then like lost in the system, just a pipeline to prison, or they're adopted by white parents who like are
Yeah.
doing it for like influencer type reasons, or they're doing it because they want to like basically brainwash those children into like propagating this white imperialist system. Uh,
Right.
and like that's what's happening to Sean here. And it's even worse because her like social worker is a Black woman. Like
Again, another, yeah, representative of the state, like being very harsh and critical. She is cold as hell when she like speaks to Sean, to TT. And it's all because she couldn't afford a babysitter, so she brought her son to work, and they weren't watching for 1 minute, not 1 minute, like 2 seconds. He
it's
disappeared.
actually kind of funny that he immediately goes for the poison.
How can I hurt myself the most? Yeah. I was just thinking, like, okay, she has no other choice to bring. Like, I can understand, like, she's got to work. So she, in her mind, like, I have to bring my child and I've got to work. So hopefully he'll just be chill over here. But I was just thinking, like, why don't one of you watch the child and then the others work? But I think it's just because, yeah, like she's got her child there, but she knows that she needs to get all the work done. And then just, yeah, terrible accident, child gets taken away. So she's got to make money. Stony is sick of the system. She's ready to go. Uh, I'm a little, I guess, Frankie is mad as hell at the bank that abandoned her and fired her and refused to give her a letter of recommendation. And Cleo has already got a criminal record for Grand Theft Auto, and like is in connection with a with Dr. Dre,
Yeah,
Black
Black Sam
Sam.
in a time-honored tradition of there being like musicians, because Tupac also had a bit of an acting career
Mm,
before he died. And so what's really funny is like Dr. Dre is like sitting in this movie between like the sort of ending of NWA, and also like after this he would discover Eminem. And so, like, he doesn't
Yeah.
really have to worry about an acting career. Not
Yeah.
that he's a very good actor in this movie. But I just thought it was funny that Black Sam is played by Dr. Dre.
Yeah. I was like, wait, I know that guy. I've seen that face. What's his name? Oh yeah. It's still Dre. It's Dr.
Yeah,
Dre.
they provide the guns to he provides the guns to the women in this movie.
Yep. That's pretty cool. And he just wants some interest. Well, he wants a date with Frankie, uh, because she's Vivica A. Fox, who wouldn't.
Hmm.
But Cleo just promises money. I believe the next scene is them going on their first heist,
Hmm.
right? In some wigs and sunglasses. TT backs out of it. And
She just
then
runs
Frank,
away. I think that's funny.
yeah. I was thinking, why would you put your costumes on once you've already entered the bank?
Yeah.
Like, and that was one that they didn't already case, so they don't know where all the cameras are. That was very risky of them to do that, but they got away with it because Frankie, yeah, led the way. Um, TT followed them back to Cleo's garage, I believe it was, um,
Yeah.
and asked. They got there. They got 12,000. TT Stony breaks it down into quarters, so everyone can get 3,000 each. Frankie is tripping, as they say, and doesn't want TT to have any, even though, as Stony says, she's the one who needs it the most because of the upcoming court case.
Hmm.
Um, which, again, I know the logical answer is like she's desperate. That is, but like my concern, I wasn't, it wasn't like a plot hole, but I would like my concern the whole time was like, you show them you got the money to take care of, um, uh, Jawan, I think was his name.
Hmm.
Uh, and they're going to see like your bank statements, the records. Well, they're going to see your bank statement. Then they're going to wonder, where do you get all this cash? Because you couldn't have earned it working at Luther's all this time, because we can, see your, I don't know, like your bank statements or something. Um, so that was giving me anxiety the whole time because I thought there was going to be a scene later where she goes to the court case and yeah, they start questioning like, where do you get all this money? Uh-oh, that didn't happen. But anyway, that was the concern I had. Like, what's
Hmm.
going to happen? Because, like, I want her to get her get back, but logically, like, they're going to question why you have so much money.
I didn't even
Um,
think of that.
anyway, yeah, I don't think it was a plot hole or anything. I just think it was like she's so desperate that, yeah, obviously they're all desperate and for different reasons. So,
I do like that
um,
TT stands up to Frankie here. Like Frankie's
yeah,
like, why do you get this money? You ran away." And Tishawn's like, "Yo, I really need this.
yeah.
Stop being such a jerk to me." And I thought that was a good bit of character development there.
Yeah, they do celebrate, and Cleo shoots off her gun in the garage, partying like this. That was pretty funny.
Yeah, after like while the heist planning was going on, Stoney met a black banker who had a thing for her.
Mm.
His name is Kevin,
Oh,
and
Kevin.
she goes on a date with him like after the robbery. I thought there were a lot of interesting aspects of this relationship. It did feel a little bit like white knighting, like you're gonna lift this black woman out of the ghetto and take her places. Uh,
Yeah,
it's interesting that he comes from like Washington D.C., so not he's not from L.A., different culture, but still he might
yeah.
understand the upbringing and what he was trying to escape in D.C.
Maybe he might not. He did go to Harvard,
Yeah.
but who knows?
What's he doing as a banker then?
But he's a corporate banker.
Oh
He's a
yeah,
top dog.
yeah.
If you remember when he meets Stony, he asks if she wants to open a bank account. There's a certain bank account, an interest-paying bank account, if you a checking account for $1,000. Stoney doesn't seem interested. And he's like, actually, I'm never down here. I work in the offices up above.
Hmm.
Uh, I'm a corporate banker. I don't know anything about what's going on down here, which was just telling me like they're gonna get this bank is gonna get cooked later, which happens. But um, yeah, I thought the relationship between Stoney and the banker was fairly realistic. It felt pretty natural, maybe a little bit of white knighting element to it, I guess. But I took it that maybe he came from privilege. Um, I guess Ivy League schools do uh, have like some poor students that they help with financial aid. Um, but I took it if he's a corporate banker, like his family has been it probably also has like executive level type jobs or whatever.
Hmm.
And you know they've been pushing him to like reach high, rather than like I guess for like Jada's character, like survive, right? Um, do anything, um, just survive. So I think that was sort of the difference. I didn't really see a huge problem. I think he just really didn't. And he never really seemed to ask about what her life is like. He did seem curious, like you can tell me, but Stoney never said anything. Um, Other than like, I'm not part of this world that you're part of. I don't have these kinds of friends. But there was one part that I thought maybe that's a bit unrealistic, but maybe not because he probably already fell for her. But Cleo has been spending her money quite foolishly. She has upgraded her car that she's been working on since seventh grade. It looks very nice. It's got hydraulics in it now and gold rims. Um,
She's bought her girlfriend like very fancy like lingerie.
Very, very sexy lingerie.
I just want to point out like her girlfriend never talks throughout the movie, and it's a very funny bit.
That is so weird, don't you think? Ursula
It's
never says anything.
I want to say vaguely homophobic because like she's like a lesbian character and she doesn't have a speaking role, but it's also like they acknowledge like early in the movie like the other characters see her kissing Stone or Cleopatra, which is her full name, a very cool name. But like they're like, does she ever talk?
She speaks with her body, as we see when she is seducing Latifah in the lingerie, one of the best scenes of the movie. No, I'm kidding. Um, in that scene, we do see her not her bare ass. I think she has fishnets on as well.
Mhm.
But yeah, she's like dancing, shaking her ass, and seducing Queen Latifah or Cleo. Not talking, just there to be pretty, I guess. Maybe that's why Cleo likes her because she's loud. I don't know.
Mhm. Yeah,
Anyway,
like opposites attract in that way.
yeah. Um, what happens next? I think they
Oh, the
plan their
police are
next.
onto them. They
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
or like Detective Scrubs is like four black women who are robbing a bank. It must be these only four black women that I know.
Based on tangential evidence of I've seen four black women together recently,
And his
and
his like his chief calls him a fucking idiot, which is what he deserves.
this is well, yes. His evidence is Stoney's brother was recently killed, so of course she might be stealing. Because I saw her with the community. Uh, Frankie might be one because she got fired from a bank, so of course she'll steal from a bank. Cleo is already a criminal, so of course she might continue and repeat the cycle. And I don't think he says anything about TT or finds any evidence about her, but those are his pieces of evidence. He goes to major or the chief or whatever.
Hmm.
And I think for me, this was one thing that I thought was a little bit unrealistic about the movie was that that cop cared about the newspaper headlines.
Yeah, the LAPD would not care what the community thinks of them.
Yeah. I mean, the LAPD has gangs running drugs for them. So competing gangs running drugs for them at that. So I that was like that took me out of the movie actually.
Stony wants out of her neighborhood, like she wants to get away, and I think that's why she's drawn to doing more heist. But she does talk to Kevin, and like he's like, "What's your plan for 5 years from now?" And a very interesting aspect of that is like she says she doesn't really have one, and he's like, "Yeah, a lot of our people don't really seem to have plans," and that's an interesting sort of bit of like maybe income sort of like uh
Yeah.
like just like how if you're in a dire financial strait, which I've been in the past, you're not thinking about like where you're going to be 5, 10 years from now. You're going to be thinking where you're going to be next week, next month. Like,
Yeah.
am I going to be able to pay rent? Am I going to be able to buy groceries for my children? Like
Yeah.
that.
This was another clue to me that his family came like was well off,
Mhm, mhm.
as well as the Harvard and become a corporate banker. It was an interesting scene. I really liked that. I guess it was kind of like maybe like I mean anybody who's been extremely poor can relate to that, but maybe this was kind of a thing to really speak to the Black community who very often suffers from these kinds of problems. I think it was kind of a pointed comment there to get like a conversation going, make people think about that. It was a good scene. Um,
And I think they even have a little bit of a fight at that point, but then they the way they resolve it is they behave like the Godfather.
that is so funny. That is so good.
They all affect
Yeah,
Italian accents for like for 5 minutes, and it's at first it's like very silly and out of place, but then they do it long enough that it just becomes funny.
yeah. That showed such a like trust among the friends to not like, what are you doing? Why are you doing that? I love that scene so much. They all had such a ridiculous accent, but it 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 really felt like it fit that they were like Don Stoney and Don Frankie, Don Titi, Don
Mhm.
Cleo. Yeah, I love this scene. I thought it was really charming. So that's when they agreed to do one more bank heist, which I think they planned on being their last one.
Yeah, unfortunately, circumstances. We'll get to that, but they engage in the Balboa bank heist, where it's a very tense scene. They go in, they rob the place. I think Tishan is like she's a put in the crowd. Uh,
Yeah.
she's crying like, "Oh no, don't hurt me!" And then some guy tries to pull his gun, and Tishan's like, "No, I don't think so. You're not going to. You're not going."
Yeah. This was another thing that sort of took me out of the movie, scared me a little bit, like gave me a lot of tension. Was that like they parked the car outside of the bank, a homeless person or a vagrant or something, vagabond, whatever, um, is being dealt with by security, and then police come as well. They're parked right next to this, so they can see that like the police are right outside of the bank. So the whole time I was thinking like, why are you going through with this right now? The police are right there. I guess they expected the vagrant, the police to take the homeless guy away in time for them to finish in the 2 minutes that they allotted for taking the money. But I don't know. It felt a little strange to why do that? Because your getaway car, you think, because Cleo's gonna drive, um, is supposed to be right there. I don't know if you felt that way as well. Uh,
No, I didn't really think. I thought, oh well, like capitalism again, not allowing a homeless person to just stand around.
yeah, yeah, definitely another like pointed example of um like police protecting capital, not people.
Hmm.
Um, but anyway, it was still a great scene, very tense. Guy, secret police, or just some guy with a gun. No, it had to be police, right? LA doesn't allow. Uh, I don't know.
I was just asking, because like it shows Cleo like entering the parking garage and pulling out a gun. Um, do you think that she killed the person that she was stealing that car for, or that car from, or
Uh,
did they just like pistol whip the dude?
as I was trying to say before I got disconnected, uh, I don't think she killed him. It was definitely made for us to think she did, but the police never mentioned it
Mm.
after. They just talked about how the car was stolen near the banker's car, which comes up when Stony is at the banker's house and police come and she's panicking after this theft. Uh, this movie also has action because Cleo took that vehicle and smashed through the bank's walls, and one to get in and another one to go into like a restaurant or something to get out. And then yeah, drove out, and they got a pretty nice haul from this theft. Their armed robbery once again proving successful. Perhaps just enough to uh, get by and get out, as they were all hoping to do.
Yeah, and then they all proceed to like go to ground, go back to work, and just make sure nobody suspects them,
Yep.
at least initially. But Stony goes on her second date with Kevin, finding them like really drawn to each other, and I think they go to a high society dinner that Stony
A
absolutely
banker's
cannot
ball.
really. What?
A banker's ball.
Banker's ball. And Stony can absolutely cannot relate to. They end up
Yeah.
leaving, and then when they get back
Yeah.
home, what you were alluding
Yeah.
to earlier, I'll let you describe this.
Well, when they're at the banker's ball, they meet with other bankers, and that banker mentions that if someone were to bomb the place, Japan, Europe, and America's like economic system would collapse because all the big wigs are there, and you could not wish for the red mask of death to show up any soon. The mask of the red, what is it called?
Mask of the Red Death.
Yeah, mask of the red death. Thank you. To show up anytime except then and there, but unfortunately, no. Um, Stony and Mr. Bankerman go home and have passionate sex. And I think the camera also gives you the sense of how like passionate it is. I mean, there's like cameras constantly changing and like fading into the next shot, but also like when they're finally getting it and you see Jada Pinkett's butt a lot, which is again very cool. But even when they're like he's going to town on her, like the way that the camera like fades out and comes back, it fades back in, fades out, fades back in. Like I think this really showed like this is a very pleasurable experience. Like you can also see it in Stoney's face. She's really into this. She really likes what he's doing. And I thought the camera work here was quite nice to see Jada's butt or her stunt double's butt or whatever. But more importantly, just like it really sold the like night of ecstasy and passion, in the same way that earlier the like camera coldly moving from one point A to point B sold that this is long and overdrawn and boring and uncomfortable and so on. That was my feeling.
And more high quality R&B. And the soundtrack to this movie is already good, but here
Yeah.
it's like very lively music. And yeah, just like as I was watching this, there's always that online sort of debate about whether sex scenes are necessary. And I do think these two add to the movie in showing
Yeah.
Stoney's overall mood and desperation, and also the hope that maybe this won't be what she's dealing with for very
Yeah.
long, that there
The
might be
first
better
one,
times ahead.
there was nothing sexy about the first one. The
Mm.
second one was very like, do it again.
Here we go. Yeah. So back at the home, or at the sort of luxury condos that these four women could not afford, and they find that Luther is no longer working here. He got out of the business. Now, how exactly was he able to afford that? It turns out that the women stashed some money inside a vent, and
Mm.
Luther somehow, this it doesn't really make sense to me how he found that money, and like he stole it, and then like he went on a spending spree.
Yeah, he spent all the money, some of it on a very nice prostitute that he was having sex with. Another sex scene that was completely um, kind of weird and gross, I guess.
Mhm.
uh, I would say also motivated, maybe less so than the other two. But yeah, he's going to town on some white woman, which maybe says something. I'm not sure.
Mhm.
I think it does say something. Like for some reason, he's like, now he's made it. Now he can be with a white woman. Maybe it is trying to make some kind of comment there. I don't know for sure, but he spent it on crystal and champagne and jewelry and watches and stuff like that, and this white woman prostitute. Cleo, TT, and Frankie show up with their gun, Cleo's gun out, asking where's the money, finding almost none of it. But Luther has his own gun. He's
Mhm.
done his own spending. He pulls it on Cleo. TT, in her panic, shoots Luther a couple times. Cleo takes the prostitute's ID so
Mhm.
she can know where her address is and what her name is and keeps it as insurance. The police bring her in for questioning about Luther. I believe it's Dr. Detective Scrubs
Mhm.
tells again, showing he's the one good apple. Not politely, but not violently saying, apprehending her and bringing her in for questioning or for the lineup. Just saying, you're going to follow me, get in the car today. Um, he's pretty forceful with his words, but not with his actions. Again, the one good cop, uh, staying strong, sticking to his values, I guess. Um, but his partner, not the one good cop, keeps pressuring the poor white prostitute who's afraid for her life to say, it's that black woman, right? It's
Mhm.
her. It's her. Say it's her. Tell us who it is. It's her, right? Um, which really shows like her true colors. She's, in the other media I've seen sort of showing that like she can basically like stick with the white guys to be just as tough as them, I guess. Um, the white cop, John C. McGinley's character, is just kind of like this, not saying anything in this little interrogation. It's his black female partner, who I don't know if it needs to be mentioned, if there's something there as well, but we didn't mention it before. She's also light skinned. Um, I don't know if there is something there in the commentary or in the meaning behind the message,
That's
but
a discussion that the Black community often has, as far from what I'm aware of. So, I mean,
yeah,
there is probably something there.
yeah. And she also doesn't have like natural hair the way the our four main characters do. I guess Frankie doesn't either. She's relaxed her hair and straightened it out, but the black cop, the light skinned cop, also has like blonde hair, if I remember.
Yeah, yeah.
That's also relaxed.
Cleo gets out, and from there, they plan the third robbery because they're out of money, and this is going to be the final robbery that they
Yeah.
have to do. Like no more after this, we swear. And the bank that they choose is the same bank that Kevin works at. Uh,
Oh my.
Oh no, what a coincidence. What's interesting is before they get there, Kevin is shown a video of who these women might be, and they might be coming for your bank next. And Kevin immediately
Yeah.
recognizes Stony, and he's like, "Damn, I let myself like fall in love." And at that point, Stony calls because she doesn't want Kevin to get hurt, and she's like, "Oh, hey, meet me where we first had our first date." And he's like, "I know this is a trap, but I'm going to do it."
Yeah,
Uh,
he knows it's Stony. And it's all the bank executives are being told by the one good cop and his uh partner. As soon as they leave, the heist begins. And when they get the call, they're like, damn
yeah,
it.
yeah.
Never around when you need them.
It's interesting that Kevin never like rats Stony out, um,
Yeah, maybe
indicating
there is
that
some
he's not a
solidarity
class
there.
traitor.
Yeah, even though he's possibly from a higher class at birth and through his upbringing, he's not a class traitor to the small fries out there, but also, um, yeah, he's not a class traitor, and he does love Stony. I think this kind of really sealed it for me. Like, oh, there is something really there.
Hmm.
Maybe for me, I felt slightly taken out because I was thinking, I mean, bank execs do all kinds of criminal things, but they would never allow this. I think he would have just told the cops then and there, like, hey, I know who it is. She just called me. That was my thought. That kind of took me out of it, but I didn't care because I felt that there was that connection and he's not a class traitor. I'm not gonna take a dig at him for what I think real bankers would do.
Yeah. And from here, like the final 15 to 20 minutes of the movie takes place, and
Agonizing.
it's so dense here. Like there's so much to pick apart. They get to the bank. They end up robbing it. As you mentioned, Detective Scrubs is called back, and Vivica A. Fox kind of um, drives the getaway vehicle near to the bank. Detective Scrubs shows up at the bank, um, and he's like, "Hey, girls, stop it! Do not do anything. And enough is enough." Like Detective Scrubs specifically says, "Stevie was enough. No more death has to happen." But it should be noted, like Stevie was enough. He says this while pointing a gun at them, like. If
That's
Stevie was
true.
enough, you wouldn't be pointing your gun at them. Like you,
Yeah.
like that feels like disingenuous to me, and it's representative of how this cop is not a good cop. Like he wouldn't mind if he had to pull the trigger. Like he'd probably feel bad on the surface, but he's still doing the job. Like he knows what his job. He's killing a bunch of
Yeah.
black people, but he still does.
That's sure, that's true, but I don't think it shows personally. Like, okay, they are not going to shoot at him if he doesn't keep the gun on him because they don't want to hurt anybody, right? That's kind of the point. That's like of Stony, like being upset, not wanting to join this heist. Um, I think like she's upset about like Luther got killed. She doesn't want to do it because she doesn't want anyone to get hurt. None of them wanted that, but it just kind of happened. I think like I guess he could have taken his gun off because his partner still had the gun, which says another thing. But if they did that, I think if that was done, it would have been too like on the nose of like, look at this good white knight cop. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
And that I think would have played wrong. Like it makes sense to me. It makes sense that he would keep his gun. on them, uh, partly for like self-defense, not to like defend cops. I think you get what I'm saying, right?
Mhm.
Like if the movie showed him that way and it just showed like the black woman, like we've already seen how like tough she is on our main characters, but like if he didn't have his gun, I mean he pulls his gun off later, which we can get to. That's one thing. That was maybe a bit too far to making him like the one true good cop, but I don't know. I think if they just kept doing this, it would have come off as like too unrealistic.
Lucas, do you want to tell the folks at home what happens to our girl TT?
Well, the one good cop tries to say this is enough, Stevie is enough, and it seems like it's working. Cleo's holding onto her gun, but the other two, who are good at heart, they are good people. They don't want to do this. They're desperate. That's why they're doing this. But okay, they've been caught. The cops are there. They don't want to hurt other people. Um, Very big point. I don't think even the partner would have done anything without the okay from John C. McGinley's character. Uh, I think she would have followed his lead, and his lead was, I'm not going to shoot. Let's just talk him down. But of course, you can't trust cops. It doesn't matter if you have one good one because the whole bunch are rotten. Another cop walks in, guns blasting, boom, boom,
I
boom,
think
boom,
he was
boom.
the bank security
Yeah,
guard.
bank security,
It's still a cop.
also known as a cop, because as the song goes, all cops are bastards. He shoots TT a lot. Um, and she is bleeding out. She's dying. Stoney pulls her out. Um, Cleo starts blasting. The other cops, our main character cops, are shooting back because now it's life or death for them. Not just a matter of being a violent pig like the third cop, even though not to say that they're not part of the system and not contributing and affecting that as well, but um, his that bank security is there to show like it doesn't matter how well intentioned the one good cop is, the whole system is rotten. Um, anyway, they get out into the escape vehicle that Frankie is driving. TT, they get to Cleo's car. It's already too late because the helicopter finds them, uh, but TT dies.
Really
Um,
sad.
is really sad. And like this, I mean, they've already been caught. They've taken off their masks. They were seen. They're being reported on. So even if she lived, she would not get her son back because that would have been taken to court. Doesn't matter what her explanation is. I think this also was kind of a conundrum. Like they were going to take the money and leave the next day or leave that night, right?
Yeah.
But Titi has a court date coming up very soon. So how is she going to go to that? Well, okay, maybe it's a loophole, but again, it's the desperation of this mother who didn't want to do anything wrong. It was a complete accident. Um, but yeah, that was like maybe another like plot hole issue, but I think yeah, just the desperation. But they start they're being chased throughout LA. Great chase scene, I think. Not too much action, but very effective. The helicopters are after them, even though they managed to escape by driving down the wrong path. So the cop cars can't.
The framing of when they get into the other car, and then like
Yeah,
in the background you see the helicopter like approaching them really
yeah.
quickly. That's a good shot. That is a
That
great.
was so good. Yeah, there's so many good shots. That was such a good one because it's just like this. You think maybe, just maybe, the three of them are gonna get away, and then you see a helicopter. I mean, it's apparent and obvious, but it's sort of subtle because it's in the sense that it's not made like the focal point, right? It's in the background. Very good. Like it's over. Um, they grab the money. They're chased through LA. They escape from the cop cars, but they drive down a tunnel and they are trapped between two helicopters. News report is reporting on it live, which is interesting in a way. I think did O.J. Simpson the year before this came out, right? 2 years
Mhm.
before.
Mhm.
So maybe in a way it was like reported in a similar way as him trying to drive away in his white car. Like when Black Sam is watching TV, I think like the
Mhm.
way they were talking about it was like movie dialogue, not news dialogue, like
Mhm.
reporting. But it kind of, I don't know, it kind of felt like that had some influence. Maybe I was just reaching. But that would have been if that was in 95, right?
It's 94, I think.
Or 94. So that would have been something that would have been ubiquitous in people's minds. Um, Cleo offers to sacrifice herself, letting the other women get out of the car, and she'll drive on. She goes out like a brave knight
Yeah.
soldier.
She drives through like a bunch of police cars, but they
Dr-
shoot up her car and it's forced to stop. And
Yeah,
she
and
like she gets out, starts firing, and then is shot, and then like lumped over her car. Um,
yeah,
and there's more to this in the next scene as well. But I should point out how it seems like almost every black character is shot in the back in some way.
yeah,
Stevie doesn't even have a gun. TT dropped her gun and was shot in the stomach. Cleo shot at the cops, but she was shot in a way where she turned around, or she was forcibly turned around, and then they just
yeah.
unloaded like a horde of bullets at her, which is
Luther was also shot in the back, but that was by TT. But yes, the
right.
cops definitely just, I guess it makes sense that actually, you know what? I learned, I don't know if I read that the cops are trained uh, to just fire, 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 like empty the clip because um, no witness is better than a witness. Basically, was the reason for
Wow.
that.
Wow. So like
That says a
that's why that
lot.
guy when he heard the acorn drop, he just shot everywhere,
Yeah,
referring to a Twitter video.
yeah, yeah. Um, Speaking of acorn projects, the
Mhm.
acorn. Anyway, I
Yeah.
thought that um, Frankie, Stony gets onto a bus. She gets on the bus full of old white people going to Mexico. Um, she puts on her sombrero. Um, Frankie is caught on a street that the bus happens to be going by.
I want to describe this. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I
I
described the other one. You described this one.
So, first, like we do see Cleo's girlfriend, see like she
Listening,
sees her
watching.
die, which is
Yeah.
sad. But then like Frankie is caught. I don't know how she's caught exactly. I guess like,
Bought.
but like Detective Scrubs is standing like pointing a gun at her and is like, "We caught you. Just let's just go." And he puts down his gun and is like, "I'm coming to talk to you," which you
I'm
might have
not
had a problem
armed.
with because, like you were saying, I think you were alluding that it might not have been realistic. I do think it is. I think this guy sees himself as a hero, and he's willing
Oh
to use
yeah.
this as a way to sort of paint himself as that hero. He approaches Frankie and is like, "Just it's all over. Give yourself up. It doesn't have to go any further." And he's just jawing on and on and on and on. And finally, my favorite, I cannot stress how amazing this callback is. I cannot stress how many times I rewatched this part just because it is great filmmaking in my opinion, and it makes this movie worth the price of admission. Um, like Frankie at that point sneakily points out or pulls out her gun while while Detective Scrubs is distracted, and she points it at his neck, and his face grows so incredibly small, and she says to him, "What's the procedure?" In a reference to the beginning of the movie where he's like, "What's the procedure when someone's robbing the bank?" And it's like it highlights how fucking angry she is at this system. It highlights how she's like, you dehumanized me at that point. How does it feel? And I think in that moment he realizes it. He comes to understand, oh yes, it doesn't feel good to be talked at this way. It doesn't feel good to treat people the way that I've been treating others. And
Yeah,
she just holds that gun to him. And in that moment, I felt, pull the trigger. That would have made this movie so much more better, in my opinion. Uh, not to
I
say it's
agree.
not good in what happens here, but she's like, she decides not to pull the trigger and she runs away. And I think like Black Detective Lady shoots her in the, or was it a shotgun guy? She's shot in the back as she's running away.
By a bunch of them. But I think the black detective does shoot her. It's Detective Strode, by the way.
Okay. I still like Detective Scrubs.
That's a better
But
name.
yeah, she's dead. Detective Strode is sad about it and everything. But
And then he looks up.
as he's as like he's looking at the body, like because Los Angeles is a very small city, Stoney's bus is passing by. He sees her on the bus, says nothing, just lets it go. I think because of all the suffering he's wreaked in this past week or so,
Yeah.
he's just willing to let her go, and Stoney escapes. So I've said everything that I felt about this scene. What do you think, Lucas?
Well, you convinced me that actually it was realistic that he does think he's the hero because he's the one good cop. But, um, sometimes you are afflicted with a hero, so to speak, and the hero causes more problems than they solve. And this guy certainly causes a lot of problems constantly.
You think about
So
Dune?
yeah, but I think it applies here. Because yeah, I now that you say that, I agree. He does see himself as a hero. That's why he wait, don't shoot, don't shoot. And he's not even saying that to Frankie. He's saying that to the other cops, and he's putting his hands on them, like, "Don't shoot, not yet," or not. He doesn't say not yet, but don't shoot, don't fire, blah blah blah. And he comes up. Look, I'm not armed. Takes off his coat. Takes off his like his gun. Um, comes up. Tries to talk to her, like you said. Okay, yeah. When you say he's a hero, okay, that makes sense to me. He thinks he's a hero. Yeah, that makes sense to me. And although I did pull that from Dune, I do think being afflicted with a hero does apply here because he
Mhm.
has ruined their lives.
Vivica A. Fox's acting in this moment is
Yeah,
amazing. Like
agreed.
just the expression on her face, the pain that you feel in her voice. Oh goodness, it's just such an amazing scene.
Yeah, I love the scene for her performance, for the like the completion of the subversion of the one good cop trope. And yeah, at least one of them got to go, but it's a very bittersweet feeling. It's very bittersweet to see only Stony get to go. She makes it to Mexico. She has half the money they stole. We don't know how much it is, but they said up to 500,000 earlier. Maybe she has 250,000.
Mhm.
Don't know. Because she had half the cash and Frankie had the other half. Um, she makes a call, one last call to the banker to let him know she's safe. And then you hear the song Hey Joe play as she drives over the coastline of Mexico on the mountains. And that song, if you don't know, is about a guy who shoots and kills his wife and flees to Mexico. So it was somewhat fitting.
I didn't know
Um,
that. Thank you for the context
yeah,
there.
there you are. uh, Anything you have to say about the ending? I loved it. I mean, it was bittersweet. She remembers all the good times in the movie. I don't really like flashbacks myself, but it worked here. But yeah, I felt like I think Jada's acting here was also fantastic because it's mostly like on her face, like how she's feeling through these memories and the pain she's got. I thought that was also good. I love the
You know,
ending.
bittersweet end. I think it was a perfect ending for this movie. And
Yeah,
given that this is also about, four friends who can't really be friends like fully because of the circumstances they find
yeah,
themselves in, I thought it was great. Like, a good way to send the movie off.
yeah. It was heartbreaking. It was funny. It had great action when it had action. It had drama. It had a heist. It had romance. It had tension. It had tropes being subverted. I mean, this movie, like, it had social commentary, critical, pointed social commentary. It had everything. So yeah, fantastic film. Definitely going to be a contender for best of the year when we get to year three. But now is the time, I think, for the most important question. Which character did you relate to most?
That's an interesting question. I actually hadn't thought about it until like 10 seconds before you asked. And it's really hard because um, these are four black women and there's more and obviously in this movie.
Yeah.
I don't identify with Detective Scrubs at all. Like how do I sympathize or how do I like how could I ever put myself in the skin of these characters when I've never been through what they've been through?
Mm.
But I would have to say either Vivica A. Fox, either TT or Frankie. Frankie for like realizing the injustice that exists and being driven mad by it, kind of, or TT like also in a similar way, kind of shy and timid, kind of like
Yeah.
wheeled around by more extroverted friends.
Yeah.
For example, you and me there.
And
But yeah, I kind of feel for those two. What about you?
for me, it is Cleo because I too like lesbians. Just kidding. No, I would say TT because although I am more extroverted than you, yeah, I also am quite shy and reserved and unsure of big plans, even though, yeah, I've had maybe more big plans like moving to China. Um, uh, Other than that, I mean, like both of us can relate to being poor, in poverty in that sense. That's something that we can connect to. Although, yeah, there's other things that are keeping us from being systemically oppressed, um, based on our appearance, our identity, all that sort of stuff. But there's still a lot to relate to, I think, in that sense. Um, Probably speaks more to people who have lived a similar experience, but um, yeah, I thought it was fantastic.
Yeah, so just one other thing, like talking about what's good and bad. I love the callback. That again, I can't say enough good things about that. The groovy characters, good characterization, the talk of being trapped in a system. I thought that was a good theme that was expounded upon. But in terms of bad, it did feel like the acting was cheesy at times, very much a relic of
Yeah,
the 90s. And Kevin feels like a white knight at times, but like obviously you've kind of changed my opinion of that a little bit. Um,
yeah,
but yeah, Kevin's kind of oofy there.
yeah. I think every character is well rounded. I didn't mind the somewhat cheesy acting in a lot of scenes from all the actors, but it to me it did make it feel more real, like their relationships, even these cheesy kinds of parts. So maybe Dr. Dre, not a great actor in the film, but I enjoyed his part nonetheless. But yeah, I liked the cheese. Only things I didn't like, it wasn't long enough. I didn't really
I thought
have
it was
any.
well paced.
Yeah, it was well
Particularly,
paced.
yeah, in my
I didn't
opinion,
really.
it was as long as it needed to be. But I think that's where we.
Yeah, it could have been shorter, but I wanted it to be a little bit longer in the sense that like just like I would have liked to know more about what was TT thinking about, like what am I going to do? How am I going to explain how I have all this money? And how am I going to get to the court when I need to escape after this third heist? Um, there's no easy answer for that. It's kind of like desperation, right? That's the whole thing motivating them. But these things kind of made me think, okay, we're just ignoring that for the sake of plot. Um, yeah, it made TT a little bit thin as a character compared to the others, in my opinion. But I still like TT, still like them all. Uh, yeah. But that leaves it to my recommendation,
Oh, I just
which
want to say, strongly recommend this out there. Go watch it. It's a good 90s movie there.
yeah, very good. Now it's time for my turn.
Excited to see what horrific movie you're gonna make me watch this time.
Well, I have good news for you. I was going to choose the 1929 version of Napoleon. However, that is a 5.5 hour movie, and you have not made me suffer through a 3 hour movie recently, so I will
They
not.
made a 5 hour movie? I'm
Five and a
surprised by
half
that one.
hours. Apparently, it's one of the most creative and expertly made like films of the silent era. And I will probably watch it on my own. I'll let you know the results. Um, but
Let me know
instead
where
of
you can
choosing,
find it. Because I might
yeah,
be interested in watching that piece by piece. I don't think I have five
yeah,
hours to sit down and watch a single
yeah,
movie.
sure. I'll look for it. There were other movies in mind that I might still choose, so I won't tell you what they are, but they were about 3 hours long. But I didn't want to make you watch a 3 hour movie because this was 2 hours. Nothing against 3 hour movies, but 2 hours is kind of my limit where I like, yeah, I'm down to watch this, no problem. 3 hours takes some time. I've got a 30-minute movie for you, 28 to be exact. And it is a 1960s science fiction film from France called La Jetée, about a man who time travels. That's all I'm going to say.
30 minutes. That's like when you made me watch what is it? Ghost in a Shell? Yeah.
That was 80 minutes, but yeah. Um, I will say one more thing. This film is very non-traditional. I don't even think it uses film. It uses still images.
Wow.
So good luck. Oh,
I think
there is one part that has film, and it's like it's a big change and twist and like adds some. It's a. I love this film. We need to talk about it.
it sounds right for me hating it. Maybe this will be the one that we definitely split off of. Have you seen it before?
I have seen it years ago, and I have been dying for someone to talk to about it. And now is the opportunity.
All right. I'll be sure to look for it. Make sure you message me because like you said La Jetée?
Yeah.
I don't know
The
how I don't
jet, I think. I don't know.
Well, okay. Well, yeah, that's about it for this video. We got a solid movie and something planned for over the course of the next month. If you have any thoughts on this movie, set it off. Let us know in the comments below. We would love to hear from you. Otherwise, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe not only to my channel but also Lucas's at Strike the Sun MD, which is referenced in the description. He has a number of interesting videos planned in the works. Um, and yeah, also join the Discord if you want to have further conversations about books, movies, other forms of media. But until then, we wish you the best of luck in your weird and bank heist planning travels. Farewell.
Farewell.